Valerie Fremont, and CEO and founder of the Center for Advancing Innovation and Ignite Social Impact. I'm here to welcome Valerie Fremont on the podcast. She has an incredible and inspirational background with regards to building companies and operational companies. I mean, making companies operational. And across the entire DC ecosystem, and has leadership and never-ending skills to create communities. She also never hesitates to provide very transparent and clear points of views for me and for everybody else around her. She provides continuous, deep insights and on a gamut of topics, and always providing angles to look at things from a different point of view, and always opening the aperture. So I'm very, very pleased to have the celebrity Valerie Fremont, and I truly value your wisdom and the willingness to be on the podcast. We will make this very conversational, if it's okay with you. And so the first question I have for you.
Well, before you jump into the question, thank you for your very kind introduction. Almost feels like we should stop it there, right? Because with this introduction, everything has been said, but thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, not enough said actually, but I'm very grateful for your providing your valuable time. So one question that I have to begin with is, could you please tell us a little bit about your background and the journey where you came from? Because you have a myriad of different skill sets.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't know if it's a very unusual story or journey. It probably is quite common nowadays. I'm a scientist by training, and I tell people I'm a geek and I love science, and that's what gets me joy. So I have a Ph.D. in biochemistry, got my Ph.D. at the University in Marseille in France, which, by the way, that background is nearby where I come from. So tough environment, right, for studying, but it was really nice. And then I came to the US after my PhD, first at Temple University in Philadelphia to do a postdoc. That led to another postdoc at the University of Maryland at the Institute of Human Virology in Baltimore. And that was the early 2000. And at the time, the US Small Business Administration had a program to foster entrepreneurship and create biotech companies. That was the early days boom of the biotech in the US, and there was a VC firm called Toucan Capital that approached my mentor at the time and offered him to leave the university to start a biotech company based on the technology innovation that he had developed at the NIH. So I left the university with him, started a company in Rockville, and that's how I moved from originally what I thought was going to be a academic career to the private sector. So with that company called Trophogen, I was director of product development at the time. It was early stage drug development in the field of fertility and also oncology. So designing the research programs, at the very early stage, designing the labs and installing the lab, creating a lab. And after a while with this company, I moved to the what was at the time the Department of Economic Development within the Montgomery County here in Maryland structure. The department doesn't exist anymore, but I was a director for life sciences and health IT, making the connection with all of the entrepreneurs in those fields in Montgomery County and supporting them and communicating with them and developing programs to support life sciences in Montgomery County. And after the department was closed down, I moved to Quality Biological, where I am now, Chief Scientific Officer and VP for Market Development and Strategy. So I can bring to Quality Biological my background as a scientist to oversee the scientific functions of the company. We're developing and manufacturing products for the life science industry. And that ranges from cell culture media, buffers, mostly custom formulations and OEM products for players, all through academia and biopharma. And so I bring my scientific background, but also my experience in business development and market development.
Well, you're very humble, actually. She's not saying all the things she really does. But I'll just leave it at that. The questions I have, so when you were doing, so forgive me, I was taking notes, but the fertility and oncology. So what were you doing in that realm?
So early stage, so we were developing new molecules in the fertility area. We're using growth factors, very specific family of growth factors, and modifying them. So in the field of fertility, those are related to the fertility hormones, LH and FSH. And we modified the sequences of those growth factors, hormones, to make them more potent. So at the time, the only fertility drugs that were available had been developed based on the sequences of the wild type hormones and still used to this day as fertility drugs. But we were developing the second generation to make them more potent, to help people who cannot get pregnant. And then because it's a large family of proteins, they have the same structure, they have different activities. So they are called cysteine node growth factors. So some of them are those fertility drugs, and then some others have applications in the field of oncology. And then we worked on particularly the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, to also develop analogs, superactive analogs of this molecule for different applications. But also there was a possibility of labeling those molecules and use them as markers for detection, early stage detection of some of the cancers where those hormones are in play.
So another question is, you had mentioned you're doing market development, social media, and could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I joined Quality Biological, the idea and then what my role is, part of my role is to expand the custom formulation and OEM market, meaning if you go on our website, you find a catalog of products that are available. And we're not the only one making those. We have some proprietary formulations, but they are most of them known formulations and known products that pretty much every research lab would use. The custom formulation and OEM market is more targeted towards specific customers that need something that is not off the shelf. They may be doing a research program and they need a very specific formulation. They might be developing a process and they need a single lot, large volume of a solution for their regulatory purpose. They might not want to manufacture themselves. Maybe it's a company doing research and coming up with a new formulation, but their business is more the research and development, not really the manufacturing. So they would contract us to do the manufacturing for us. In that case, we do manufacturing sterile products, all in clean rooms, all under quality management system. We're also ISO 9001 certified facility for manufacturing. We'll do all of the QC quality control on the product, release the product, put the customer's label on the final product, and send it back to the customer, so it becomes their product, and then they can commercialize under their name. So there's different configurations. The fact that we're a small company, we're pretty nimble when it comes to accommodating customers' requirements for that in terms of manufacturing and testing. There's plenty of large companies doing custom manufacturing, and sometimes for smaller businesses, getting on their agenda or their schedule, it's more complicated because they might need volumes that a larger manufacturing company doesn't want to do, or because it's too small for them. So we're a little bit in that niche where we can do commercial scale, but we can also accommodate smaller volumes. And I think we have a turnaround response pretty fast compared to other larger manufacturing companies because we're small, and then we really pride ourselves that we have a really good interaction with the customer, trying to understand their requirements from the beginning, and we develop the process with the customer in mind. Really, it's we try to accommodate as much as possible whatever requirements they may have.
So, Valerie, this brings me to many questions. So this is a very big problem for many companies, and you said it very clearly and concisely. You start to, well, I have several questions, but the thing is that you're looking at the requirements the client has in mind. So, do you want, or could you, or I mean, it might be trade secret, so I don't want to say it, ask you to say something trade secret, but the thing is that many, including myself, when I was like 23 years old, I got everybody in a room in London, and I had to do this implementation all around the world. And we had to have the requirements, but the requirements were different in each country. There's multi-currency, multi-set of books, multi-org, multi-language, and it's not easy to get all the requirements. So the requirements like change. So how do you determine the requirements? Because it's complicated.
Yeah, most of our customers, if not all, I'm trying to think, no, we have, there's currently one outside of the US that I'm working with, but most of them are in the US. So already in terms of currency, that simplifies the issue. We can work with customers outside of the US if there's requirements and regulatory something that is specific to a country, we also expect them to let us know. But most of the time, for the type of products that we're making, because they are research use only or for further manufacturing. So it makes it a little easier to understand on that side. Now, the requirements are mostly on the nature of the product, what goes in the formulation, how do you make it, and what are the outputs at the end. How is the product going to be tested to verify that it complies with the original requirements. So that would be pH, osmolality of the product, performance of the product. So we test on different cell lines. So it really is depending on how the customer intends to use the product. And usually they know how they want to use it, and they know what the product is supposed to look like, and what is the function for which the product is used. So they will tell us. Sometimes it's a conversation, because either it's something new to them and we're there to support them and help them navigate and understand what is possible and what is not. We can't produce a product based on formulation if we calculate what is the concentration, what is the pH, and may have expectations that just chemically can't work. But most of the time, they already have an idea because they have tested. So they have tested something on a small scale, and they just don't have the means or the capability to scale that up to a commercial level. So the mixing different ingredients in a lab and testing a formulation is a different business than what we're doing, which is manufacturing large scale with a final product that is going to be a commercial product. And then sometimes testing the benchtop process of making a product and the manufacturing process of making a product. It requires a little tweaking and testing, and that's the expertise that we have.
Mm. So basically, custom formulation, and also.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So maybe it's if you're not in the field, because you're in that field, that currently there's a big market in cell and gene therapy, right? And in order to do that, so you'll take cells from a patient and transform them and then expand them, trying to get enough cells so they can be re-injected into the patient. So all of the process that's going to happen ex vivo, so in a facility to expand those cells, will require solutions, cell culture media. If you're another example, if you're producing a monoclonal antibody, you will need to purify that from the cell line where it's been produced, and that requires solutions. So all those buffers you probably see in movies, or you've visited labs and you see those big columns, and then you push with one buffer, you clarify with another buffer. So all those liquid solutions, whatever the formulation is, we can make, and we can make to the exact formulation that the customer will need. So that's where we are a support in that sense of early stage product development, research side, or for further manufacturing. We also collaborate with companies developing medical devices, and those machines need to run with cleaning solutions or perfusion solutions, and so we can also make all of that. So it's anything that is a liquid solution, custom specific formulation, basically we can make, as long as it's not toxic or dangerous for the production staff. Most likely we can make it.
So what do you think? So I have a particular point of view on this, but I have known Valerie for a long time, and she has, Valerie, if you don't mind my saying, you have many points of views on how you go again, for example, even doing custom formulations and I wrote down a bunch of notes, early stage custom manufacturing, but you always have a point of view that is different in a very, very positive way that can enhance and advance anything that you're doing. And I can say that for a fact. And so what is how do you, okay, what I was going to say was, what is your secret sauce for how do you think that way? Because I've not been able to interact with anybody like you ever.
I don't know if there's a secret sauce, but I think maybe that comes from the scientific training. I don't know what I don't know, right? And I don't pretend that I know everything. So I really try, and that's important for anyone in that field, to try to keep current with new technologies, try to understand what customers are doing, where the industry is going, and it's moving pretty fast. I mean, if you look back 20-25 years, it was the beginning of sequencing. You remember the publication of the human genome sequence? That was, I mean, huge deal in the scientific community, and now we just use technologies. We can do single cell sequencing, which 20 years ago was something that was not even something that anyone could imagine. So everything is moving pretty fast, and with every new method, new technology, there's a requirement for new products. So we try to keep up with all of that, so we can always offer products that are relevant. That being said, there are some legacy products that everybody is still using, and so we're just increasing our portfolio to be able to always offer variety of products and relevant products. So it's I don't think there's a secret sauce. It's just being aware of what's going on and try to understand what customers need.
Valerie, do you have a point of view on AI?
In a specific application in my field, maybe, because otherwise it's going to be a really long conversation. Yeah, I think we're not really using it at this point. I think the people using it, the pioneers in using that, are paving the way to what are the possibilities, and I think we're all learning that as well. It's something that I believe will be another tool in the toolbox for drug development, the same way that molecular biology, the discovery of DNA, the cloning of DNA, the using DNA has allowed to develop new drugs, monoclonal antibodies, for example, the same way that we're using cell lines and improving cell lines using those techniques to increase the production rate of all of those drugs. So hopefully people developing that as a tool will pave the way, and it's just something that will become something else to add to the capabilities of developing new drugs.
And so on that note, okay, as background, I feel so old. Like Cody's gonna have to cut that out, but the thing is, 25 years ago, I did the strategy for Watson. That's a supercomputer from the IBM.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it's supposed to be high performance computing. At the time it was used for Jeopardy. We were trying to figure out, okay, what can we use it for next? And high performance computing has come into the real world now. I mean, one of our, we've launched about 415 companies now. I mean, we have a 72 to 73% living rate. Cody could, my right hand guy, he could correct me on 72 or 73%. The mainstream for the ones that have gone forward that have raised a lot of money, 175 million. I mean, there's a bunch of them. The thing is that they are relying on high performance computing. So I don't know if you have do you have an opinion on how high performance computing can enhance what you're working on now?
Yeah, I think indirectly, maybe not exactly in what I'm doing, because we would be a little bit downstream of that. But I mean, it's known that some biopharma are starting using AI to try to screen potential drug candidates faster, or compile results from libraries much faster, or changing formulations. Let's say a cell culture medium that is used for the production of antibodies, as a drug candidate. There's a lot of components that go in those formulations, and changing the concentrations and testing the concentrations to improve the production rates is something that the industry has been working on for a very long time. When we started producing antibodies or drugs using mammalian cell lines, the production rates were very low. So to obtain enough material, you had to increase the volumes that you were using. Now, those rates have been improved by a lot. And it makes it easier and more cost effective for companies to not only produce more, but in a more cost effective way. So all of that, the formulations that you use, so I believe they're using AI for testing all of that. They might be also using AI for testing drug candidates, doing modifications in those little pieces of the structure, the sequences, for testing which one has a higher biological impact. So I don't work with that tool. I know that it's been implemented at that level for enhancing and improving the process, and maybe getting to new drugs faster as well, more effective and new drugs.
So just to change gears for a moment, one thing that you have done that is pronounced and very prolific and also accommodate, I want to say the word can be is accommodable, is what you have also done to engage a broad community in the DMV with grace and poise. And I look at you and I say, I would love to do it as well as you have. But you did it like didn't have any step aside, and you did it for economic development in the DMV and beyond. But you can really engage with a broad set of people generally and communities. And one thing that I think that our startups would really love to learn also is to understand, how do you do that?
I think I had good mentors. So that side really started when I joined Women in Bio. You're familiar with this organization. So it's a nonprofit organization that was started in the DMV region by Robbie Melton. And I was one of the original members of this organization and interacted a lot with those amazing women who paved the way to creating a structure for helping and supporting women entrepreneurs. So it started in the in Montgomery County in the DMV region, and it has spread all over the US. And the time that I was a very active member, a volunteer for this organization, I also helped open the first international chapter in Montreal. So it's national and international now. And I think being in contact with and seeing how those women who came from different aspects of life sciences, in the group, we had scientists like myself, we had women doing business development, we had lawyers, we had counselors. So it really started with Women in Bio at the time. And being involved with this organization in developing programs and interacting with women entrepreneurs, I think it started like that, really. And I continued doing that, engaging with the community, because not only I could meet amazing women, but also in different aspects, they could become potential customers. So I think I met you through this organization very early on. We just celebrated the 20th anniversary of Women in Bio last December. And thinking back, I can't believe it's been 20 years, because it's been an amazing journey with this organization. And then looking at what it has become, it was really Robbie Melton's dream to take that to that level. So I have to thank the organization Women in Bio for helping me also in my career, giving me the confidence to interact with people, and giving me the opportunity also to do that. And being part of that community has been an amazing journey for me.
Okay, so let's imagine. So I really appreciate that response. Because it's been an interesting to watch Women in Bio, and I'm very happy that you have had such an amazing experience there. So if there's a white space, like a white space opportunity, so what I mean by that is we have Women in Bio, and I think that's a tremendous organization, and we have all received tremendous benefit from it. But do you think, I'm sorry to I give you on the spot question, but the thing is that I'm wondering is if there's an opportunity to create something new or build on something that could fill a void for, changing the game, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to say the word game, but fulfilling. Let's see. Have you heard
the landscape?
Yeah, yeah. I always think of the term Hall of Fame song, but it's Eminem, but the allowing others to enter the Hall of Fame where there's not something there yet. Do you have a suggestion or a thought on that?
There's always ways to improve. I mean, we can think that we're doing all. I do believe that there's always ways to improve. Certainly the networking, the communication between academia and private sector, increasing that bridging between those two. because they really go hand in hand. And the perfect example is what we've been through recently with the COVID pandemic. The development of the life-saving vaccines, the technology of the mRNA, it originally started with academic research. And so I think we can always find new ways to bridge the academia world and the private sector to increase the communication, the technology transfer. You're an expert in that field, and then you know exactly what it is and where the deficiencies might be, and where it is possible to develop some new tools or increase that communication. You know that better than me, actually. So there, I think that there's something to do. Finding ways also for scientists, and I'll speak from that point of view because it's the one that I probably am more familiar with. The exchange of ideas always is very important. We talk about the water cooler discussions and how some ideas have spurred just by discussing about, oh, I did this experiment and I realized this and this and that. We have a saying in France, that's where I come from, in case nobody knew, but now you know. The way that we build a lab, we put a coffee machine and then we build around that, because that's where everybody will meet, get some coffee and start talking. And the labs where I worked, it was always in the kitchen around the coffee machine that you started discussing. And when I was a PhD student and I needed guidance, I would always wander into the kitchen, talk to people. I am having an issue with this and that. And you always find someone who can help you, has had the same problem, can give you some ideas or some advice. So that keeping a line of communication, I think, is really important, because you might be stuck somewhere and someone went through that already, and might be able to help you. And I don't have a magic recipe for encouraging people to talk, except when you're going to a conference, I think it's always important. I like conferences that allow enough time for networking. And sometimes the conferences are really packed with programs and presentations, and it's really good. I think what happens in between those, the networking time also is something that is critical. I discussed once, you probably remember the times of the biohealth capital region, once a year conference that was happening at MedImmune at the time, right? And it was 2 days of presentations and conference, but a lot of networking around that. And I remember talking to someone, having coffee, and this person said, this is the best networking opportunity interrupted by presentations. And it was really, people were going there to meet the community, to meet their friends, meet people from different companies. And what he said, it really struck me as, he's absolutely right. You know, people go there to network and to discuss. So I like those opportunities also for networking. I think they are very important to keep the time for people to discuss. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, because you do a lot of conferences. If it's something that you realize that networking time is critical for allowing for discussions.
No, I agree with you. And I think that the presentations normally go on for much longer than they should. One of my favorite keynotes that I did was in Chicago, and it's a keynote, and I was like 20 minutes. And so actually I did 10 minutes of presentation and 10 minutes of Q&A. And I think that more than 60% of the people came up to me afterwards, because basically I had to short it down and get to the point, and then you, when you really get to the point, then you can actually have a good conversation. But the basis of that is then you have conversations that it was very funny in that particular conference, because I had been partner on an engagement with this guy that I met, like, oh my gosh, I hate to say it, but 25 years ago. So the thing is, it was very nice. I mean, all these people, they remember me from a million years ago. I must be a million years old. But then it was not nice, because the thing is that you can keep it short and simple, and then just get out and have a significant amount of time for networking and discussing and identifying collaboration opportunities and so on. So I think you're right on that. I think that's, and then the other thing that I always think about, I have like a bunch of notes written down from what we've discussed, but okay, in Denmark, when I was there, I did a project for like 6 months there, and in Finland, 6 months, 8 months actually. So it was fascinating because the way they interact. So in Denmark, they had this ongoing, every single day at 3 o'clock, they would do beer and some kind of pastries, like cinnamon pastries, what have you. But if you didn't show up, egg on your face. And Finland was a little bit different, but it was you had to have lunch with them. I mean, and it had to be like by 1 o'clock, and you had to have lunch with them. So
in the company, you mean at the company?
At the company, yeah. So it's a bit different. So the but it's kind of a conference of sorts. Not like a conference, it's the company itself. But the thing is that it's the cultural element of exchanging ideas and realizing them, and then getting rid of some complications. So what you said was the line of communication. You have to have allow them enough time for networking, for conferences, and then I think that some certain companies also build that into their culture because they do it like every day.
Yeah.
So do you have an opinion about, I mean, and you also said, you're by the coffee machine and you're or the water, whatever, and you're exchanging ideas. So what do you think is more valuable? Do you think it's better to have the networking at a conference or in your company, or both?
I think the equal value, but with different purpose. Right, within a company, you're interacting always with the same people, and we're a small company, so maybe in larger companies, it's the feeling is a little different. If maybe they do inter-departments type of interaction. In my company, it's we're 25, 26 headcount, so it's very easy to interact with almost everybody. You don't need to make an appointment or go on the other side of the campus. So the networking outside that conference is more, at least to me, it's more the exchange of ideas to get more information, to know better the customer base, to understand better what the customer is looking for, something that we don't necessarily discuss within the company because we don't have those interactions. So I think there's value in both, in terms of keeping the culture of the company by discussing with your colleagues, getting to know them, understanding the different functions of different departments, because it's a whole structure with different. It's like a body. You have the brain on one side, you have the arms. Everything is functioning properly when they all communicate together, right? If like this week I had a sore throat, I wasn't functioning very well because one part of my body was sick. So you have a company is like an organic symbiosis of different functions, and the most efficient way is that every function communicates with the other one. Important to know what you're doing, but also what the other departments are doing. And then the networking outside is gathering information, but also bringing out your own information, making sure people are aware of your capabilities, what you're doing, so they think of you when they need those, when a need will arise. So I think there's value in both, very different, but equally valuable.
Perfect.
Mm.
So, so you know that the Center for Advancing Innovation is a catalyst for startups. We've been doing that for some time. Do you have any point of view? This is the question about where do you think the best, let's say, the best startups might be found that are not startups yet?
That's a really good question. You probably know that better than anyone because that's your bread and butter, right? Really.
We do this all the time. We have 170,000 inventions we work with, 153 institutions. But I always would love to have shed some light on your thinking.
I think fields that might become, we're already saying, but might become even more critical in the future are related to aging. We all want to be able to live longer in good health and in good mental capabilities, right? So and then we're achieving that every year, increasing the lifespan of people and allowing for people to live longer in good condition, with some limitations, right? We're still trying to understand development of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, how to maybe preserve bones, mental capacity. So I think the field of helping people as they are aging and finding solutions for people to live longer in good conditions is something that we're already seeing development, but I think it's going to become even more critical because we see the aging of population, and mostly in developed countries like the US, like European countries, and it's a huge market as well because people want to continue enjoying their life even after they have retired. So I think there science in developing tools and technologies to understand the process of aging and what we can do to help people continue living in good conditions while they are aging is something. You haven't done a challenge in that field yet, right? See, I don't remember seeing.
We're actually spinning up a new challenge right now, and it will be aging. The aging component will be a part of it.
Cool.
And also space. So space, aging, AI, high performance computing, and biotechnology. So combining those elements. And longevity. So one of my lovely prior one of our winners from the first challenge. His name is Saurav Sinha, and he's a general partner now in a longevity fund, and he's still a very, very good friend. So we'll be engaging in that realm as well. But
and there's already some technologies that can apply to that with genetic testing. You know, what is a person's risk to develop, you know, cardiovascular disease or cancer, early detection of some cancers, that is part of that, regenerative medicine as well, personalized medicine, because we learned that, and then we know now there's not one type of cancer, but multiple types, and finding a cure or treatment that can help really specific patients, because they have different type of tumors. I think it's all part of that, looking at how to treat people and then consider patients as individuals and not or another cancer story.
Our largest company just raised $1.3 billion in that area about early detection. Well, prognostic diagnostic for cancers.
Yeah.
With blood test and yeah, that Freenome, that's the name of the company.
Yeah, I was at an event this week organized by a foundation trying to invest in technologies mostly related in the field of women's health. And there was a person who started a company on the developing a diagnostic tool for early detection of ovarian cancer, which we know is a woman's killer. Very often, women having ovarian cancer, the cancer is not being detected until it's almost too late. So we now have, and we've had for years, for example, mammograms available to detect breast cancer early, and then we know that we have greatly improved the chance of survival for women developing breast cancer. It's not yet the case for ovarian cancer, so that's another example of developing tools early detection of some of those diseases. There's a greater chance to survive if any cancer is detected early.
Very good. Ovarian cancer is pretty difficult. So I know that we're running a little bit late, but I wanted to just ask you one more question, if it's okay, because I don't know if you. I'd like to wrap up with 2 minutes and maybe ask you one question. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
So I mean, you have done a lot in entrepreneurship and growing companies. What would your advice be to companies that are trying to grow, figuring out how they're going to grow, etc.? Are there like a couple, 1 or 2 bullet points?
Maybe from previous experience, limited experience, but not one single person doesn't know everything. And surrounding yourself with the expertise or the capabilities that you don't have, I think is critical. So first realizing that I don't know everything, and maybe I'm good in that field, but not so much in that field. So then I need to compensate that and hire the best person in the field where I have deficiencies. So being able to recognize that as a single person, I don't know everything, and I need to surround myself with people that can bring complementary type of expertise. then build from there. Build from there. I mean, you have to be very humble. I mean, being an entrepreneur is really, really hard. Being humble in realizing that a single person cannot know absolutely everything and do everything. So always try to surround yourself with the best people in each field or each applications that you do not master. I think that's important.
Okay. So, Valerie, we have received quite a volume of value from this conversation. I want to thank you so much. And everyone who's going to be listening to this podcast will have a great amount of information about kind of key points. So one thing that
any podcast that you have done, because I watch some of them, not all of them, but a lot of those, you always have guests that can bring a different point of view and recommendations and advice, and you can pick from any of the podcasts that you have published very interesting information, valuable advices. So thank you for doing that as well for this community.
Thank you so much, Valerie. That's very kind. But I wanted to reiterate, I mean, there are many things that I wrote down as we were discussing, but one thing you mentioned was talking about what's possible and not possible, and ways to think about that, and how to foster entrepreneurship. And you have done that significantly. Also, you mentioned that you should always be aware of customer needs, which is critical in many different ways, and looking at different tools to understand. I mean, those are ones, but one thing that I thought was very important as well is keep open the line of communication. And you know, when you're, for example, what I was saying was, the question was, how do you improve, you know, community? And you were saying that the lines of communication allow enough time for networking and discussing, and create different reasons to interact, and make them relevant. Then you also mentioned that there's fields in the future that are important, that are related to living and aging. And I have more notes on that as well. And, you know, one of the critical aspects of entrepreneurship is experience or expertise that you don't know everything. I mean, gaining expertise that you don't know. I mean, because you don't know everything. And also that changes over time, you mentioned. And then hire, you know, obviously hire complementary expertise, and be humble, and realizing always to be the entrepreneur yourself. I don't think that I captured everything, but those were some notes that I wanted to emphasize. Do you think that I missed something?
No.
A lot?
No. Yeah, that's a lot. It's not everything. We only have an hour, but anyone just take it one day at a time. You know, life is hard enough. Enjoy what you're doing and take it one day at a time.
Very good. All right, Valerie, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and valuable insights. I'm very grateful. So I'll let you go, and thank you for
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to have this discussion with you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much.